So before we even get into the reasons why you may be struggling with consistency, I think it's worth the time to actually get into defining what a habit is and how is a habit formed. And so what a habit is a set of learned actions that are repeated and that have now become automatic to you and to your daily life. Now, how does a habit form? These set of repeated actions have to be repeated daily, so much so that stable neutral pathways in your brain are created, and in a sense, teaching your brain to make this an automatic action. That's why our habits have now become things that are automatic to us and that require minimal conscious effort for us to even do. And so the first reason why you may be struggling with consistency is the fact that consistency fails when motivation fades. And so think of it like this. Think of motivation being the key that starts the car, the key that gets the engine going, right? But think of consistency as what drives the car. And so once you've gotten the key into the ignition to start the car, the driving is what becomes the consistency. And so motivation is actually what starts a lot of our actions. Think of it, for our New Year's resolutions, everyone is hyped up. We all want to make new changes into our lives. So motivation is what starts those actions in our lives on the 1st of January. But consistency is what builds the habit. That's what gets it going. And so the second reason why you may be struggling with consistency is that your brain actually chooses easy rewards over hard rewards. And so there's a psychological concept. It's called delayed discounting. And delayed discounting basically says that us as humans, we prefer smaller rewards now over bigger rewards later. And so if you were to win the lottery and you were offered 100,000 Rand right now, as opposed to being offered 2 million in the next 3 years' time, chances are you're going to go for the 100,000 Rand right now. So that's something that is actually psychological. Again, delayed discounting. It affirms how we want smaller rewards right now as opposed to bigger rewards later. That's why it's so difficult to be that's why it's so difficult to actually be comfortable with uncomfortability, because let's face it, discipline is uncomfortable. So the third reason why you may be struggling with your consistency is that procrastination is in fact an emotional problem. And so there's a structure in your brain, it's called the amygdala. And what the amygdala does, or how it acts as a rapid detection system for any threats or any emotionally charged situations. And what it does is that it actually triggers avoidance responses. So the amygdala is what sort of, in a sense, saves you or protects you from any dangerous situations. And so that's how we feel. That's how our body responds when we feel like there's a task that seems overwhelming. There's a task that seems boring and unpleasant. Your brain, or rather the amygdala, triggers avoidance responses. So that's why it's so difficult for you to actually get down and sit down and be busy with your work. That's what causes procrastination. And now there's a different structure in your brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And what the prefrontal cortex is used for, it's basically used for logic and reasoning. And so in times where procrastination starts, have you ever noticed is that whenever it is that you are procrastinating, there's usually a second voice of reasoning that is basically begging you to do, or reasoning with you to do whatever it is that you had said that you were going to do. So what's happening there is in fact two systems conflicting. One trying to avoid you or trying to get you away from what seems dangerous, and one trying to, submerge you and reason with you to try and get you to do whatever it is that you need to do. So you're actually not lazy. Your procrastination is in fact an emotional response. Okay? So the fourth reason why we may be struggling with being consistent is that your dopamine is sabotaging your consistency. And so naturally, we are hardwired to chase fast and easy dopamine. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. The fifth reason why you may be struggling with consistency is that you don't have a discipline problem. You, in fact, have a system problem. And so the most disciplined people actually don't require on their willpower. They don't rely on their willpower, but they in fact set systems that help them protect their discipline and their willpower in a sense. And so I think we've all heard this as gym goers. We've heard the pack your gym bag the night before, or take out your gym clothes the day before, so that whenever it is that you wake up the next day, you'd see that and obviously be triggered to go to the gym. And that's something that actually I've used before. I'm coming up on a 4-year of training now. It's actually the 11th month. 11 months later, I'm actually still someone who packs her gym bag the night before and lays out all of her gym clothes the night before. Why? We're teaching our brain that this is our identity and this is what we do now. And it's worked so good. It's worked exceptionally so well that it's so hard for me not to be consistent, not for me to go to the gym. Unless if there's a good reason why I need to skip the gym, but I hardly ever do. Okay. So the sixth reason why you may not be consistent is that you are in fact starting too big. And so in behavioral therapy, there is, in behavioral therapy for treating depressed patients, they have a principle, and that principle basically says that it's best, or rather you start with small actions instead of waiting for motivation. Basically, I think it challenges how we usually think. Most of us wait for motivation to start an action, but it inverses that, saying that your mood activity starts first, your mood will follow later. I think if you've ever noticed, that's why if you're ever in a slump, you don't even need to be someone who was depressed or whatever's going on. If you are in a slump and you're procrastinating, once you complete a small activation task, there's a sense of fulfillment and a sense of self-efficacy and a sense of motivation to now do something else because you've managed to finish the small task. So in future, the reason why you may not be consistent is because you may be starting a bit too big. Rather have a hierarchy. Start with smaller tasks, get to the bigger tasks. Trust you me, I feel like if you go on using that hierarchy, you would finish and do whatever it is that you said that you're going to do. So the seventh reason why you may be struggling with your consistency could be the fact that you are quitting early. So we've all heard it before. It takes 21 days to build your habits, but that's in fact inaccurate. That was a conclusion that a plastic surgeon, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, came up with in his book Psycho-Cybernetics. So the reason why he came to that conclusion was because he saw that his patients were able to accept any new appearances, any changes to their appearances, or they were able to accept losing a limb within 21 days. And so basically, as you can tell, that had nothing to do with building habits. But the conclusion that he was trying to get at was the fact that it takes us 21 days to accept a new situation. Now, years later, Philip Palali and a team of other researchers at University College London actually did an actual study researching this. How long does it take to form a habit? And they basically found that it takes anywhere between 18 and 254 days, but on average 66 days to form a habit. So let's just translate that into months. So that would take you anywhere between 3 weeks and 8 months to form a habit, and on average 2 months to form a habit. And so just think of all the moments that you're trying to build a habit or whatever it is that you're trying to do. And giving up on it. You're in fact quitting a bit too soon. Through this video, we now know that 21 days is in fact a myth. The average is 66 days. The range is anywhere between 18 and 254 days. And so in fact, anywhere between 3 weeks and 8 months. And so what you also need to understand is that the harder habits are going to take you longer to build. That's just a norm. And the last thing that I want to leave you with is that consistency will always beat intensity. The only way that you're going to repeat these set of actions, so much so that they become a habit, remember that's how I said a habit forms, is if you are consistently doing them again, and again. So my last sentiment to you is that the only thing that you need to do for yourself is to keep showing up. Keep showing up. If you're falling, do it again, and again, and build that repetition so that it becomes an automatic thing for you to do.